With every passing sequel, the stakes got higher as expectations got bigger. For Vin Diesel, his confinement to the role only got worse as tragedies along the way left a void he could never fill. However, his feud with his co-stars would only plunge his franchise into chaos. But you see, back when The Fast and the Furious premiered in 2001, audiences loved it and the movie quickly became a global success. Dominic Torreto sprung Vin Diesel into Hollywood's next action star. Soon he was being compared to action legends like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. Yet the typecasting came quickly when he took on Triple X, a movie that leaned heavily on his Fast and Furious persona. The box office numbers were strong, but fans had their doubts, saying, Xander Cage was just a more extreme version of Dominic Torreto, a tough guy with a rebellious attitude and an affinity for speed. Seeing the danger, Diesel rejected the sequel, hoping to distance himself from another franchise that felt too similar to Fast and Furious. In an attempt to reinvent himself, he starred in The Pacifier, a family comedy movie where he played a babysitter.
I wanted to do a film that was just a straightforward comedy, and I had the wonderful opportunity because of Spyglass and because of Disney to do it.
However, instead of proving he had range, it made him look like an action star trying too hard to be funny. By the late 2000s, Diesel's career was in trouble. He needed a win, and that's how in 2009, he negotiated a producer credit for Fast and Furious, giving himself more creative control. But even with all his influence, one thing was clear: Fast and Furious was never just his story. It was his and Paul Walker's. Then tragedy struck. The news sent shockwaves throughout Hollywood.
Paul Walker, one of the stars of the enormously popular Fast and Furious movies, dead in a car crash.
It was an unexpected blow. On a Facebook post, his tribute read, "To live in the hearts we leave behind is not to die. Pablo, I wish you could see the world right now and the profound impact your full life has had on it, on us, on me. I will always love you, Brian, as the brother you were on and off screen." Meanwhile, Diesel took Walker's memory personally, leading to him naming his daughter Pauline in honor of his friend. But even as he honored Walker, he struggled to move forward. Despite the tragedy, the studio, fans, and even Walker's family wanted the movie to be completed. But the weight of that decision fell on him the most. Diesel struggled with a heavy burden as filming continued.
I've been acting all my life, and they don't teach you in acting how to mourn someone and simultaneously pretend they're in a scene with you.
Behind the action, in an interview with WGN, his overwhelming grief continued. Damn, Vin is fighting back tears at the very beginning. You can tell he's having a hard time containing his emotions. Vin genuinely cares about Paul. Their on-screen friendship was as close as their off-screen. You can see the hurt in his eyes even behind the sunglasses. When Furious 7 finally hit theaters in April 2015, it was a phenomenon. The film made over $1.5 billion, becoming the highest-grossing Fast and Furious movie ever. A Forbes article titled "How Paul Walker's Death Turned Furious 7 into a Blockbuster" summed up the situation. Well, in 2016, on the set of The Fate and the Furious, tensions between Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson erupted into what would later become one of Hollywood's most infamous feuds. On August 8, 2016, The Rock took to Instagram with a now infamous post stating, "Some male co-stars conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't. The ones that don't are too chicken shit to do anything about it anyway. Candy asses. When you watch this movie next April and it seems like I'm not acting in some of these scenes and my blood is legit boiling, you're right." Immediately, the internet started speculating. Who was Dwayne Johnson talking about? The conflict reached its peak when sources revealed that Diesel and Johnson had to be separated on set.
But you know, The Rock and Vin Diesel couldn't be on set at the same time. They hate each other so bad. They had to shoot different scenes and like shoot it so it looked like someone was there. They hate each other so much.
However, in a Reddit thread discussing Fate of the Furious beef, Dwayne Johnson, Vin Diesel kept apart on press tour. Fans thought it was all PR stunt. So there just so happens to be a feud between Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson, while they're promoting the franchise installment where there's a feud between Dom and Hobbs. I don't know about that. Is the feud a publicity stunt for the film, or do they actually hate each other now? I thought it was a publicity stunt. By the time Fast 8 hit theaters in April 2017, audiences weren't just watching for the action. They were dissecting every scene, wondering if Johnson and Diesel had truly been kept apart. Then came a bigger blow to Vin Diesel when Universal Pictures reported a spin-off. Hobbs and Shaw blasts open a new door in the Fast universe as it hurdles action across the globe, from Los Angeles to London, and from the toxic wasteland of Chernobyl to the lush beauty of Selma. Diesel's reaction was immediate. He posted cryptic Instagram messages about loyalty and family, thinly veiled shots at The Rock. Tyrese Gibson, Diesel's longtime Fast co-star, took it even worse, leading to an emotional breakdown.
This is all I got.
On YouTube, the Joe Budden podcast dissected the drama.
Tyrese got
the period.
Tyrese got to relax.
Not the period.
He taking that movie into real life now. He think he's still on set.
I think he could rock up.
Later interviews, Dwyane Johnson spoke about Tyrese Gibson's feud with him for the first time.
A beef requires two people to actually jump in it, and it was really one-sided. And
Right.
To me, there's no need to have a conversation.
The subtext? He wasn't interested in dealing with the family anymore. It is no surprise that the subreddit thread titled, Dwyane Johnson Ruins Movie Franchises and Castings wrote, "Casting Dwyane Johnson ruins franchises and turns them bad. One look at the Fast and Furious franchise and the DCU confirms that. It took 3 movies to undo all the good things that the first 4 movies of the FNF franchise did, and they went batshit insane after Furious 7 and Paul Walker's death. The same happened with Black Adam, which ended with Cavill being fired as Superman. When the spin-off movie Hobbs and Shaw hit theaters in 2019, it made over $750 million worldwide." YouTube reviews from channels like Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Johns praised its action and chemistry.
I didn't expect this spin-off to be as entertaining as it was, but it was. Great chemistry between the leads, kick-ass fighting, exciting chase sequences.
The real blow, however, was that the audiences didn't care about Dominic Torreto, as his absence barely made an impact. By the time Fast 9 arrived in 2021, Diesel had lost something bigger than just a feud. He had lost the unquestioned control of his franchise, the one thing he was known for. But then he made a move that caught everyone off guard, the plea on Instagram. "My little brother Dwyane, the time has come. The world awaits the finale of Fast 10. Legacy awaits. I told you years ago that I was going to fulfill my promise to Pablo. I say this out of love, but you must show up. Do not leave the franchise idle. You have a very important role to play. Hobbs can't be played by no other. I hope that you rise to the occasion and fulfill your destiny." Merely weeks later, The Rock fired back in an article with CNN. The backlash was immediate. Vin's delusional right, "My little brother Dwyane, legacy awaits. Fulfill your destiny." Bro, The Rock's eyebrow is a bigger star than you've ever been. Who do you think you are? I don't even like Fast and Furious or The Rock's movies, and I can see that. Diesel had always positioned himself as the leader, but Johnson's refusal to return on Diesel's terms made one thing clear. The Rock wasn't answering to him anymore. For Johnson, the answer was clear. He moved on, signing major deals with Netflix, DC, and other franchises. When The Rock reappeared briefly in a post-credit scene of Fast X, audiences cheered, only for Johnson to later reveal.
So I am 100% confirming to you guys around the world that yes, it is true. Hobbs is back. Hobbs is back in the Fast and Furious franchise.
Finally, The Rock has come back to the Fast saga. Glad he came back. The franchise wasn't the same without him. Meanwhile, Diesel's attempt at other franchises like Bloodshot had flopped in 2020. His Riddick and Triple X franchises had faded into obscurity. The franchise that made him was now the thing trapping him. Leading up to the release of Fast X 2, Diesel had promised fans that the saga would end with a bang. Instead, it's ending with a whimper. Despite Diesel's repeated claims that the franchise was for the fans, audiences had grown tired of the recycled storylines, unrealistic stunts, and bloated runtime.
Death in this franchise doesn't mean shit. Nothing in this movie makes sense, so I can...
In 2025, the Fast and Furious franchise, once Diesel's proudest achievement, had become his biggest scar.